This is a show with no particular niche, baby. It's always about hanging out. Maybe we'll laugh at some stuff, maybe we'll learn something new, but it's always about hanging out, me and you. Hi, hello, and welcome to That Thing with James. I'm your host, James, and thank you for tuning in. Newcomers, welcome. Oldcomers, welcome back. Comers, go somewhere. Clean yourselves up, please. Hi, what's up? Today we're doing science and magic. What, pray tell, would be the cross-section of science and magic? One could say alchemy. Damn, I don't remember any of the opening lyrics. I don't even remember the melody. Listen, I just, a few days ago, completed for the first time watching Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. What a fantastic anime. Wow. What a great story. Wow. That was really cool. Yowza. I enjoyed it a lot. The Ehrlich brothers are wonderful. They're so sweet. I'm so happy things turned out okay. I'm pretty annoyed. Listen. That show's been out for a hot minute. So, spoiler alert, I guess. Spoiler alert. Jump ahead 30 seconds or just plug your ears. Spoiler alert. Why the hell did he not just tell the automail mechanic lady that he loved her? That pissed me off so much. Just tell her. I mean, fuck, I figured they had already exchanged that word. They'd been living together for 2 years, man. Why didn't he say he loved her? Oh, God, that annoyed me. But that's part of the story, and it's not like the story was poorly told. Okay, spoilers over. It was a good story, and it explored some really neat concepts, one of which was alchemy. And one of the goals of alchemy is, and this is no secret, no spoiler, immortality. Really, that was the goal behind immortality. And in the very light research I did before, just pulling up whatever articles for this episode, the majority of what I found described alchemy, which I am familiar with, and I have been familiar with it, as the ultimate goal is to change lead into gold, or anything else, any other kind of elements into gold. And that irked me. It made me a little irkle, because that is not the ultimate goal of alchemy. The ultimate goal of alchemy is immortality. And why the hell all these various articles don't even mention that drove me nuts. It is the pursuit of immortality, is the ultimate goal of alchemy. Hey, I'm a poet, don't you know it? Regardless, all these articles got focused on the fact that, yes, part of the pursuit was turning fundamental things like lead into gold. And that pursuit, and especially the pursuit of immortality, as far as we know, proved fruitless until now. It seems scientists at CERN using the Large Hadron Collider have accidentally turned lead into gold. It seems the alchemists were right. And that's what we're going to get into today, and a little bit about alchemy, in case you're not too familiar with it. But first, quick business. I have a lot of bonus episodes. I think I'm creeping up on 150 bonus episodes, and you can get access to every single one of them by becoming a patron at patreon.com/ThatThingWithJames. Once more, that is patreon.com/ThatThingWithJames. This is my fun side project thing. There was once upon a time I thought maybe I could make this a hustle, a financially sustainable hustle some way. However, I am not willing to get advertisements. This is the only advertisement, is me advertising to you my Patreon at patreon.com/ThatThingWithJames. I don't have backers, right? Other than my patrons. And those of you who are patrons, thank you so much. You rock. This is just me, solo, all the way. I don't want corporate backers. I don't need to do advertisements or any of that stuff. That's not my interest here. And if that's the main thing that would keep this from being any sort of lucrative exercise for me, then fine. I've gone this long without it. How long have I been doing this series? What, 6 years? About 5 or 6 years? I've been doing this podcast for longer than a lot of people are willing to, give it a shot on their podcasts. So I'm still here. And if you want to show your support and get a lot in return, you can do so by becoming a patron at patreon.com/ThatThingWithJames. The link is written in the episode description. And also, if you're new and listening to this on audio, this show is on YouTube as well. Just go to YouTube, in the search bar, type in That Thing with James. My channel will pop up. You can subscribe, follow, yada, 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 get notifications, all that good stuff. There you go. There you go. And you can see my pretty visage. And I don't know if you can see it right now. Visual watchers, you voyeurs. I don't know if you can see it right now, but I've got a little bit of like some short hairs. And I don't mean the short hairs. I just mean like shorter hair hanging down the back of my head. And I fear, like, I can't see myself. I don't have a monitor hooked up right now. Okay, I'm working with some old equipment that I've patched together and been using for, well, since basically the beginning of this show. I've got shorter hairs hanging down the back, and I don't know if it looks like a frayed out rat tail. I hope it doesn't, but rest assured, I have a ponytail. Can you see it? Yeah, I've got a ponytail and a shock of white hair, white gray hair. I think it's going more white. And the rate at which my hair is turning gray and or white seems to currently experiencing exponential growth. The rate is precipitous. It keeps getting faster. I combed my hair before bathing the other day, and I lifted back, and on like the undercoat on the side of my head, especially on the right side, it's just a wide shock of pure white hair, baby. And I'm a little self-conscious about it. I'm 38. I'm not young, but I ain't old yet. I ain't that old. Granted, I did start going gray. I think maybe I saw my first gray one at 22, but really I started getting more and more grays by 23. That was grad school. I blame it on grad school. That was a very stressful time. Anyway, yes, lead has been turned into gold, and I have reluctantly relied upon passive tense, on passive verbiation, which I will try to avoid henceforth. And I think the thing that will help me most will be a sip of coffee followed by a cleansing skosh of water. So I'm going to do that right now, and then we're going to jump into today's topic in just a second. I thought about reading the Scientific American article, but fuck it. Let's just read straight from the horse's mouth at home.cern. Yes, the CERN website. And I don't know how I missed this because I only recently, this week, heard about this thing. I'm recording this on Sunday, August 23rd. So the previous week before this episode comes out is when I heard about this. But this article was published on 8 May 2025. I didn't know it's over a year old. How did I only now hear about it? TikTok, that's how. Anyway, I thought this was newer information. My bad. Well, regardless, here we are. I've already chosen today's topic. Let's dig in. Again, this is on home.cern. Title: Alice. That is an experiment they're doing with the LHC, massive detector at CERN's Large Hadron Collider, yada, yada, yada. This is Alice's a Large Ion Collider experiment. Specializes in heavy ion collisions to study quark gluon plasma, the primordial state of matter that existed microseconds after the Big Bang. So kind of base state matter almost in a way. And if you're curious about quarks, I had a whole episode about not well, I guess it is technically subatomic particles, but subatomic particles, quarks, those things. I had a whole episode about that maybe a year ago about, well, let's read this. Okay, here's the article. Alice detects the conversion of lead into gold at the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider. Near-miss collisions between high-energy nuclei at the LHC generate immense electromagnetic fields that can knock out protons and transform lead into fleeting quantities of gold nuclei. In a paper published in Physical Review journals, the Alice collaboration reports measurements that quantify the transmutation of lead into gold at CERN's Large Hadron Collider. Transforming the base metal lead into the precious metal gold was a dream of medieval alchemists. This long-standing quest, known as chrysopoeia, may have been motivated by observing that dull gray, relatively abundant lead is of a similar density to gold, which is true, which has long been coveted for its beautiful color and rarity. It was only much later that it became clear that lead and gold are distinct chemical elements and that chemical methods are powerless to transmute one into another. With the dawn of nuclear physics in the 20th century, it was discovered that heavy elements could transform into others, either naturally or by radioactive decay, or in the laboratory under a bombardment of neurons or protons. Though gold has been artificially produced in this way before, the Alice collaboration has now measured the transmutation of lead into gold by a new mechanism involving near-miss collisions between lead nuclei at the LHC. Oh, so they've already been turning things into gold artificially, but is it from lead? I'm curious. And we're not going to get into that today, but I'm curious the other ways in which this was achieved. I was not privy to this already. Extremely high energy collisions between lead nuclei at the LHC can create quark gluon plasma, a hot and dense state of matter that is thought to have filled the universe around a millionth of a second after the Big Bang, giving rise to the matter we now know. However, in the far more frequent interactions where the nuclei just miss each other without touching, quote unquote, the intense electromagnetic fields surrounding them can induce photon-photon and photon-nucleus interactions that open further avenues of exploration. The electromagnetic field emanating from a lead nucleus, is particularly strong because the nucleus contains 82 protons, each carrying one elementary charge. Moreover, the very high speed at which lead nuclei travel in the LHC, corresponding to 99.9999993% of the speed of light, that's pretty fast, causes the electromagnetic field lines to be squashed into a thin pancake, transverse to the direction of motion, producing a short-lived pulse of photons. Often, this triggers a process called electromagnetic dissociation, whereby a photon interacting with a nucleus can excite oscillations of its internal structure, resulting in the ejection of small numbers of neurons and protons. Well, that was a fun sentence. To create gold, a nucleus containing 79 protons, 3 protons must be removed from a lead nucleus in the LHC beams. Quote, "It is impressive to see that our detectors can handle head-on collisions, producing thousands of particles, while also being sensitive to collisions where only a few particles are produced at a time, enabling the study of electromagnetic nuclear transmutation processes," unquote, says Marco van Leeuwen, Alice spokesperson. Easy to understand, right? Easy as pie. Let's keep reading. The Alice team used the detector's 0-degree calorimeters, ZDC, to count the number of photon-nucleus interactions that resulted in the emission of 0, 1, 2, and 3 protons accompanied by at least one neutron, which are associated with the production of lead, thallium, mercury, and gold, respectively. While less frequent than the creation of thallium or mercury, the results show that the LHC currently produces gold at a maximum rate of about 89,000 nuclei per second from lead-lead collisions at the Alice collision point. Gold nuclei emerge from the collision with very high energy and hit the LHC beam pipe or collimators at various points downstream, where they immediately fragment into single photons, neutrons, and other particles. The gold exists for just a tiny fraction of a second. The Alice analysis shows that during Run 2 of the LHC from 2015 to 2018, about 86 billion gold nuclei were created at the 4 major experiments. In terms of mass, this corresponds to just 29 picograms. Since the luminosity of the LHC is continually increasing thanks to regular updates to the machines, Run 3 has produced almost double the amount of gold that Run 2 did, but the total still amounts to trillions of times less than would be required to make a piece of jewelry. While the dream of medieval alchemists has technically come true, their hopes of riches have once again been dashed. Quote, Thanks to the unique capabilities of the Alice ZDCs, the present analysis is the first to systematically detect and analyze the signature of gold production at the LHC experimentally, unquote, says Yuliana Dmitrieva of the Alice collaboration. Quote, the results also test and improve theoretical models of electromagnetic dissociation, which, beyond their intrinsic physics interest, are used to understand and predict beam losses that are a major limit on the performance of the LHC and future colliders, unquote, adds John Jowett, also of Alice collaboration. Thus concludes the article provided by home.cern. I'm sure we all understand that perfectly clear, yes? Okay, so in short, they are trying to, just see how matter works on a very, very, very small scale. Because once you understand the smallest of parts, it informs you of the biggest parts of the universe as a whole. And thus, on a beyond microscopic, beneath nanoscopic scale, they are trying to replicate conditions of the Big Bang just to see how matter works, how matter behaves, how matter creates and disappears. And in this way, they are able to, again, understand the universe, how things are. And in so doing, they accidentally found that they could turn, again, way smaller than nanoscopic pieces of lead into gold, which is interesting. It is, in a sense, modern alchemy. And as I said before, alchemy was kind of a cross-section between science and magic, and it was, for a very long time, of interest across the world. And we're going to read about it after I take another sip of water. Be right back. I have, for a long time, been intrigued, one could say, in the esoteric. I find it of, supreme interest, hence why I am interested in esoteric things. I don't buy all of it all the time, but it does say something. One of the things I'm interested in, and this is perhaps neighboring to esotericism, is the way in which quantum physics discovers time and time again things that were already observed and shared as simple fact, as observed nature of being, of existence, of life, of humans, of the universe, of Earth, etc., by like Native Americans, Buddhists, even Taoists, thousands of years ago. Especially with Buddhists regarding the concept of time, the concept of identity, of reality, of perception, and that sort of thing. Quantum physicists, time and time again, in their examination and research of time, you could say, for example, are finding close to proof, we're not at laws on a lot of this stuff yet. And when it comes to quantum physics, it's a little difficult to come up with a law because it is thoroughly unpredictable. And as of now, thus far, and I posit, my thing is that it's maybe unpredictable because of the frameworks under which humans tend to work right now mentally, the way we reason things. Because quantum physics behaves in a rather unreasonable way. Okay. Don't worry. If you feel lost, if you feel out of place hearing this stuff, don't worry about it. Just go with it. You don't have to understand every single word I'm using. Just hear me out. Don't focus on every single brush stroke. Just go along with me and trust that I will paint and that I am painting a picture for you here that you will understand. Okay? I saw a piece a couple of weeks ago about time, about deja vu and everything. A gut feeling. Some quantum physicist stated that perhaps a gut feeling is more than just a loose, ephemeral intuition, but quite literally a memory of events that have yet to happen. Say a gut feeling, an intuition is some part of you remembering the future, because we experience time, the present, consciously. And it gets very weird with trauma, especially PTSD. Your experience of time can distort to varying degrees, which is, I find, very interesting. Or you get lost in nostalgia, reminiscence, and that sort of thing. I think there's more substance to imagination and memory than we really accept in the West, in the scientific West right now. But every single time there's some new discovery in physics and thus in chemistry and every other field of science, and the more advanced it becomes and the more it matures, the more it rediscovers what was already discovered by, say, like Buddhists and the sort, that identity, your sense of individuality is real, but it is also illusion. That kind of like Jung. Jung was really, I'm going to use the word, he was dope when it came to recontextualizing what Westerners might call Eastern philosophy into a Western framework of, say, like the collective unconscious, that perhaps although we all experience individuality, although we all experience our singular identities, that perhaps it's more than possible, perhaps it is quite so, that we also experience a collective consciousness. We are part of a collective consciousness, that humanity, or perhaps the earth itself and all things on it, are like a single brain. And we are but different cells in that brain experiencing existence, experiencing itself as if we were separate, as if we were individual, when in truth, we are all just cells of the single organism. And it goes beyond the earth. It could go, and it likely does go, throughout the universe and off into whatever's outside the universe, into other universes, and to things we thus far forgot how to comprehend. Okay. And so this idea of a gut feeling, of an intuition being like, a vibe or something. At least this one quantum physicist posits that it is a memory of events yet to pass, because we experience time one moment at a time, moving ever forward, yes? When in truth, time has already happened. It is not just moving forward. It's something that words cannot really describe right now, that our words, my words in English, cannot describe. The future has already happened. The past has already happened. Everything that ever was and everything that ever will be all exists already, and we cannot perceive it because we experience life mostly, like by a plurality. Is that more than a majority? I forget which is which. As we experience life in 3 dimensions. Although we also experience a bit of 4 dimension. We experience time. We have a sort of perception of time. That's the 4th dimension, is time. And if you were, say, a 5th dimensional being, then you would see time all at once. I think kind of that's what the massively overrated movie Interstellar touches on. Yeah, come at me. I think Interstellar's way overrated. Anyway, whatever. Red herring. Let's read about alchemy. As I mentioned before, I went through a few different articles to find a decent, fair description of alchemy, and a lot of them fell short, either intentionally or unintentionally. And the fairest account I could find in my, albeit brief, research was the damn Wikipedia article. So let's read it. We're not going to read the whole thing because it's deep. It goes deep, especially with history. I don't even know all the history. I'd like to learn more about it. But let's just read this here with the general stuff at the very top. Alchemy, from the Arabic word alchemia. I'm not sure. I don't speak Arabic yet. I'd like to learn so many different languages. Excuse me. Alchemy is an ancient branch of natural philosophy, a philosophical and proto-scientific tradition that was historically practiced in China, India, and the Muslim world and Europe. In its Western form, so I mentioned Taoism a little bit ago. Taoists were into alchemy as well. Taoism's fucking... I had to do a whole episode on Taoism. Anyway, in its Western form, alchemy is first attested in a number of pseudepigraphical texts written in Greco-Roman Egypt during the first few centuries AD. Greek-speaking alchemists often referred to their craft as the art or knowledge, and was often characterized as mystic, sacred, or divine. Alchemists attempted to purify, mature, and perfect certain materials. Common aims were cryosopia, the transmutation of quote-unquote base metals like lead into noble metals, particularly gold. They also aimed for the creation of an elixir of immortality and the creation of panaceas, which would be an elixir to cure any disease. The perfection of the human body and soul was thought to result from the alchemical magnum opus, or great work. The concept of creating the Philosopher's Stone was variously connected with all these projects. And at the beginning of this episode, I mentioned I just finished watching Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. I had been watching that, and then like I just finished watching it, and then later that day, I heard about the CERN thing accidentally turning lead bits into gold bits, which I found interesting, exciting. And that show, I haven't read the manga, and the older anime, Full Metal Alchemist, that played on Cartoon Network, that was around the time like I was going from like high school into college, and I was still watching anime and stuff, but that one didn't grab me so much. Brotherhood, ooh boy, that grabbed me. I really liked it. Great characters, great writing. But that series did a good job of integrating alchemy and the fundamentals, the aim, what it's about, how it works, that sort of thing, in practice, etc. They did a good job. Whoever wrote it, whoever the mangaka was for Full Metal Alchemist, they definitely were in truth interested in the topic of, to the point that they understood the practice of to a good degree. Let's keep reading this Wikipedia piece. Islamic and European alchemists developed a basic set of laboratory techniques, theories, and terms, some of which are still in use today. They did not abandon the ancient Greek philosophical idea that everything is composed of four elements, and they tended to guard their work in secrecy, often making use of ciphers and cryptic symbolism. In Europe, the 12th century translations of medieval Islamic works on science and the rediscovery of Aristotelian philosophy gave birth to a flourishing tradition of Latin alchemy. This late medieval tradition of alchemy would go on to play a significant role in the development of early modern science, particularly chemistry and medicine. Modern discussions of alchemy are generally split into an examination of its exoteric practical applications and its esoteric spiritual aspects, despite criticisms by scholars such as Eric J. Holmyard and Marie-Louise von Franz that they should be understood as complementary. The former is pursued by historians of the physical sciences who examine the subject in terms of early chemistry, medicine, and charlatanism, and philosophical and religious texts in which these events occurred. The latter interests historians of esotericism, psychologists like Jung, and some philosophers and spiritualists. Spiritualism is an interesting subject, too. I've got books on this shit, by the way. I told you I've been interested in this stuff for a long time. The subject has also been made in an ongoing impact on literature and the arts. And then this one isn't too long, so core concepts. By the way, before we get into it, Isaac Newton was an alchemist. He was an alchemist. He was really interested in the occult. Because of this, a lot of this stuff ties in with the occult. The Society of Thelema, Aleister Crowley, so on and so forth. I told you I'm interested in this shit. Anyway, core concepts. The Western alchemical theory corresponds to the worldview of late antiquity in which it was born. Concepts were imported from Neoplatonism and earlier Greek cosmology. As such, the classical elements appear in alchemical writings, as do the 7 classical planets and the corresponding 7 metals of antiquity. Similarly, the gods of the Roman pantheon who are associated with these luminaries are discussed in alchemical literature. The concepts of prima materia and anima mundi are central to the theory of the philosopher's stone. Magnum opus, the great work of alchemy, is often described as a series of 4 stages represented by colors: nigredo, a blackening or melanosis; albedo, a whitening or leucosis; citrinitas, a yellowing or xanthosis; rubedo, a reddening, purpling, or iosis. And that's all I'm going to do on this episode before I get any deeper in it. That's it. Thanks for tuning in. The bonus episode, I'm just going to do my usual. I'm going to dig for fun, light stuff to read on Reddit. People fucking up. Well, I find myself digging up Schadenfreude, trying to dig for pieces to experience Schadenfreude in the bonus episodes. So stick around, check it out, become a patron at patreon.com/ThatThingWithJames. Thank you for tuning in for this episode. I hope to catch you next time and on the bonus side. Bye.